What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well this morning. Coming into the last quarter of the moon, a little under 50% illuminated. I'm gonna say about 48. Coming through the trees right now. It's very poignant because we got dendritic structures and branching coming up right before I'm about to go into some electrical scarring on the moon. Kind of look at the weaving of the branches. Kind of reminds you of electrical arcing. What's up there, Tim Martin? What's up, Sabine Geometry? Hey, yeah. What's up, Q Question Stuff? I think there's a little break in the storms right now. Lucky, got a nice hour while the moon is rising. So we get to see this beautiful waxing crescent, waning crescent. And hopefully we'll get to see some close-ups of some hexagonal craters again tonight. And I'm gonna read a little bit of stuff I've been researching today. I really went deep on moon research, pulled up some Ralph Jurgens stuff on electric scarring, some old Velikovsky references, and yeah, just some really interesting cosmology about how the moon and Mars might have actually been connected by a plasma filament at one point, and how Homer referenced it in some writings. So very fascinating, exciting day for me in terms of discovery. I'll just share that with y'all. Let some jams get into play and have a little smoke to kick things off. Set the focus a little bit. You can still see it's coming out through the trees and the clouds. Thanks, Hemp Alchemy. Looks like a Japanese painting, exactly. I know what you mean, like those old, the triptychs. Tim says there's an asteroid passing us by right about 0.1 lunar distance. It's dangerous, 445 feet wide. It's going to scrape our atmosphere. Yeah, man, that would be amazing to be able to track, but I don't think I can do anything like that right now with this weather. But we'll watch the moon and hope all will be safe. Very cool. You can see Eratosthenes crater. It's the only crater popping out in the dimness right against the Terminator middle. It'll just get a little bit clearer as it rises. reptilian research redux. Just watching this beautiful like cloud cover move through. Y'all can see all these crazy iridescent colors. Really trippy. Still got a few branches as well. Alright, so forgive the squeaky chair. There's going to be a squeaky chair in the background. But I'm going to read a little bit from these texts that I found today. While we wait for this moon to clear. Moon to clear. So let's see what to start with. I was looking up. There's this amazing book that I found some excerpts to called Physics and Astronomy of the Moon, published in 1961. And there are different chapters by different astronomers. There's one on the interpretation of lunar craters by Eugene Shoemaker. Just trying to see what to start with. Talks about how important it really is to study lunar geology and to interpret really the origin of the moon, one, and the origin and history of Earth, and how it's really a keystone source of inspiration and study for him. Maybe this text is a little tough to read. Let me find tough as in tiny. I'm gonna find something a little bit easier. The Ralph Jurgens thing is pretty good. All right. So, of the Moon and Mars, Part 1, the origins of the lunar sinuous rills by Ralph E. Jurgens, from Ponce Journal to 1974. According to Velikovsky's collation of ancient historical accounts, the most recent period of turmoil in the solar system ended less than 2,700 years ago. Territorial disputes that continued for nearly a full century brought Venus, Mars, the Earth, and the Moon into repeated conflicts, scarring all of them to varying degrees. And since all this happened so very recently in geologic time, most of these battle scars should still be prominent and fresh-looking. Yo, what's up there, Sully's girl? How's it going? Let's adjust the lighting here a little bit. We're gonna get some awesome views of Eratosthenes, and I wanna say that's Archimedes up top. And probably Clavius up at the bottom. I can see Rima Huygens, or Huygens' sword, also towards the bottom half. What up there, Duplicat? How's it going? Creepy moon tonight, I know. You can see the different layers of haze. It's amazing that actually the storm's cleared up. It's been stormy all day down here. I heard the news about the asteroid. Is that what you're talking about? All we can do is just listen to reports of it. It's going to be really tough to catch it from here. Can't really track it necessarily. What is it? We better enjoy this because August 1st, YouTube ends live streams? No shit. I did not read that. Let me look that up. That would be crazy. Well, I don't see it coming up right here, but the golden age of YouTube is over. That's in April. Not finding that, so link, let me know if you find that link, but I checked it out. So I'm gonna keep reading from this thing I was started on, of The Moon and Mars by Ralph Jurgens. So talking about the recent catastrophism that brought Venus, Mars, and Earth into repeated conflict. And so, but what kind of surface markings might be distinctively attributable to close encounters between planets? Religious, historical, and literary texts describing the battles of the planetary gods are fraught with references to cosmic lightnings and thunderbolts. The implication, emphasized by Velikovsky in numerous writings, is that the electric discharges took place between the planetary bodies during the close approaches. Furthermore, such discharges were evidently of such magnitude as to be visible from Earth, even when they did not actually terminate on Earth. And what that means is just that there would be these arcing plasma discharges like electrical thunderbolts connecting, for example, what I was reading, and I honestly can't believe I missed it, but the Mars and the Moon with a white gossamer filament, as Homer puts it. Duplicate says, oh, the killer asteroid will not be televised. I know. Yeah, so I'm not sure about YouTube ending streams. If they do, I'll go on to Twitch or some other type of platform, figure it out. But as this moon clears, I was researching, just for everyone joining tonight, or this morning, I've been deep on the electrical craters, hexagonal craters, and electrical scarring across planetary bodies, looking at all those different videos and reference materials. And of course, the Thunderbolts project has referenced Ralph Jurgens' work in a lot of different ways, but I think I haven't really read this text before in full. So it's really fascinating. In this and the sequel article, I'm going to continue. Right. So the implication emphasized by Velikovsky in numerous writing is that electric discharges took place between planetary bodies during close approaches. Furthermore, such discharges were evidently of such magnitude as to be visible from Earth even when they did not actually terminate on Earth. They must therefore have involved enormous exchanges of energy and have produced scars of commensurate proportions. Now look at that. We got some clear Luna. SMS Blau says, what is all this clouds? Can't control that, man. Can't control that, but we're getting some clarity here. There's going to be a discrepancy on the color because of the phase and because of the clouds, so I'm just going to let it get up a bit higher before trying to adjust the balance. There we go. All right. Mind you, I still got tree branches sort of in the way. You can't really see it, but it's a bit blurry at the bottom. Let's give it like 5 more minutes so it gets a bit higher. Alright, so in this and a sequel article, I intend to suggest that electrical scars of vast proportions are indeed in evidence, particularly on the surfaces of Mars and the Moon. I'll emphasize that it's just such markings that constitute the most recent features of these bodies. This is all quoting from Ralph Jurgens. Velikovsky quotes Pliny's description of a cosmic thunderbolt. Heavenly fire is spit forth by the planet as crackling charcoal flies from a burning log. This homely simile seems congruent with ancient artistic tradition. Early Greek sculptors portraying Zeus, for example, poised like a quarterback about to launch a football-shaped thunderbolt. And Zeus, of course, or not of course, but I think is referential to Jupiter. The impression gained from both these lines of evidence is that the thunderbolts thus referred to and depicted were not luminous streamers akin to atmospheric lightning, but luminous objects of missile-like proportions. If so, it seems likely that such thunderbolts were of the nature of plasmoids, described some years ago by Winston Bostick of the Stevens Institute. These objects, pieces of plasma, with unexpected capacity for maintaining their identity, were fired from electrodes of a plasma gun. So you think about Zeus holding the cosmic thunderbolt. So imagine, or at least what I imagine is probably what they're implying is that Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, was closer or just was flaring up at the time and kind of launched a missile of plasma towards Earth or towards Mars. And I guess people on Earth saw it, is really what they're saying. And that's crazy, crazy stuff. So they emerged from the gun in donut form, like tori, then expanded axially to form long cylinders. When fired into a thin gas, they bent themselves double and twisted into forms resembling screws. This suggests, if we are correct in equating plasmoids and cosmic thunderbolts, that the early Greek sculptors may have detailed the thunderbolts of Zeus with screw-like twists at each end on the basis of accurate descriptions passed down by their ancestors. Alright. There's a lot here, but I want to jump ahead a couple of paragraphs. Yo, what's up, more Jello? Reading from some plasma history. This Ralph Jurgens paper. Alright, so he says, what does he say? Alright, what we seek is some fairly unequivocal evidence of electric scarring evidence, suggesting that electric charges actually were exchanged, with one body serving as the cathode and the other as the anode. In such an exchange, the scarring sustained by one body would be different from that sustained by the other. But there are four bodies under consideration. Which two make a pair offering the best prospects for the present inquiry? Goes on to mention, perhaps Homer has passed on a useful clue. The Greeks attributed the forging of thunderbolts to Hephaestus. Homer further recounts that Hephaestus forged a net, fine as a gossamer, but quite unbreakable, which he used to entangle his wife, unfaithful Aphrodite, the moon, and her tempestuous lover, Ares, the planet Mars, and bind them together long enough for several other gods to come by and make sport of them. I wonder if that means, make sport sounds like making fun of, but there's no further reference to it. But that's really fascinating to me. It's the first time I've really read it today. But if you can imagine, the moon and Mars entangled in a dance with a plasma filament connecting the two, and people on Earth actually seeing that live on YouTube, on Greek YouTube back in the day. Alright, I'm going to jump a little bit further down. Alright, so I got a bit of cloudage on the moon. Almost there. Alright, could this net have been another of Hephaestus's electrical artifacts? The question occurred to me one day as I was leafing through the newly purchased paperback with the rather unexciting title Gaseous Conductors, Theory and Engineering Applications. There on page 189 was a photograph of two spheres with sparks streaming between them. The photo caption and accompanying text described the phenomenon as formative stages of sphere gap breakdown, ... with well-defined spark channels being propagated from anode to cathode. In addition, there's evidence of a glow discharge throughout the gap. My mind's eye saw Mars and the Moon struggling to part from one another in the skies of the 8th century. Is it conceivable that Mars and the Moon could have been intimately bound, presumably orbiting one another at close range, by gravitational and electromagnetic forces and joined by electrical streamers for so long a period, hours, days, as to give rise to Homer's outrageous tale? All right, what's going on in the chat room? So, The moon's vanished behind some clouds right now, so I can't zoom in. Even if Venus's magnetosphere only passed by close enough to inject Earths with lethal noble gases, that would have also been catastrophic if ignited by Earth lightning. Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. There's this whole idea of how the etheric vacuum strips planets of electrons and surfaces of electrons. There's a whole deep dive into electrostatic levitation of dust on different planets, particularly the moon. So I feel like there are a lot of references that we can look at, hopefully when the moon comes back. We can dive into Aristarchus, and there's a whole dive into Aristarchus that I want to talk about. It's really actually, I think, at the bottom of this page. How old is Aristarchus? There's that piece, and then there's this map of all the sinuous rails, like those kind of snake-like filaments that we see all the time, especially the one in Aristarchus Plateau called Schroeder's Valley. But they do this kind of distribution of sinuous rails based on orbiter shots, and they show that Aristarchus actually is one of the most recent features on the moon, which is why it looks so bright, and it's actually still radioactive. And so all the interest that I've had in Aristarchus since the get-go is sort of kind of come to this head where Aristarchus really is an actual, like, hot topic, literally, figuratively. I just want our shot of the moon to come back. Let's do a little homage. Little song for the moon. I've grown to like you. Alright, that was a little Grown to Like Ya. And I'm just gonna jam a little bit while we wait for the moon. Ooh, still screwy guitar. What's up, Z Proxy? How's it going, brother? Across the oceans. You got any moon footage today, tonight? Ooh, I'm way out of tune. All that humidity, probably. Space, so maybe I'd love to find you if we can get high. Take me on home, say, take me up high, what you say. I feel alive when you make me feel. A little wash. Ooh, so finicky guitar. Hope I'm not busting y'all's eardrums. What kind of cabinet am I running, or plugins? It's plugins. It's a, what is this? This looks like an Epiphone emulator, I think. Like a 60s sound. Ooh, man, that's not good. It's just not settling. Sorry, y'all. What's up there, Lost Brooklyn? How's it going? So many things happening. Moon drifting off, trying to get the sound. I feel like I'm gonna have to get this guitar repaired. That's just the long and short of it. Your candlelight, watch your pushing while I play. The distant ship is my delight. To your fire out in the sky. Oh, take you for a while. We'll carve out oceans for you do, you try to feel special. It's just like humans bruise when you try to accuse someone. Oh, you do what you do, what you try to feel special. Oh, you lose just like humans lose. tune. If y'all bear with me, I'm gonna fix that problem. It's a little better. I know I got a black screen and no moon, but I feel like it's gonna come back to us. You know how that is. There we go. Alright, it's time for some space. What up there, Gamescom? Nice to see you. It's time for some space. Give us some space. Got to write a song about the craters someday. Got to write a song about the craters someday. Apparently I'm not the first to notice these crazy things. There are a bunch of guys back in the 60s smoking on some shit. They thought they had hit the edge of the universe, no how. They thought they'd have some hope, but see where we're at right now. Drowning in the mire of conspiracy. Drowning in this is you and this is me. It's so boring. Give me some free fucking space. Space, give me some free space. No policies, no legal battles, no economy in space. No satellites, no telemetry logs, no enemies in space. Let's all get along for just a couple of minutes, just a couple of seconds. It's gotten clear. We sing to the moon to gain some clarity. Without you, I wanna get off this attitude show. I'm just playing around. I haven't played today. So I'm warming up live. What's up, Cyclic Visuals? Hey, thanks, man. Feeling good tonight. I know it's like 3 a.m., but I got some energy. Listen for you. I got some energy. I got some invigoration for the craft. I got some energy to share with y'all. Don't call me crazy, don't call me Don't call me crazy, don't call me crazy. I just have a fascination with the moon. I got a fascination with. Now they're gonna call me a fascination with. And now you're gonna tell me I've got fascination with. You're gonna tell me it's all been done before. Before. Find the chord, find the chord, find the chord. All right. I feel like just something just went out of tune. Was it the D? It was the D. I swear the moisture is definitely affecting, or like the weather's been affecting this guitar. Oh, the G went completely awry. I think I turned down a bit on this, what is it, pedal board. I'm going to chill out on this echo tiny bit. Let's center the moon. Damn, it's looking real nice. See Copernicus coming up. And I was looking through, aggregating some of my videos from a couple of years past, trying to figure out like what are the tightest shots I can find of, for example, Copernicus and Kepler and Aristarchus, and really, really sharp details. So I'm going to put that all together. I feel like the whole hexagonal crater thing is so exciting and really evidence of a different type of lunar geology that is just out there ready for us to just pluck from the outside and bring it in. Yo, what's up there, Jen Perry? How's it going? Under your spell, just you, just feel compelled to stay. It's you, just you, my moon. Tell Yo, what up, Fresh75 says, how many lunar waves has this guy captured? So I have a playlist that says Lunar Waves. You can go check it out. It has 2 of them in there. There was a 3rd clip that was taken down for some reason. and there's a Jupiter wave in the best of playlist. So you can check both of those out. They're identical type of events. And for all of y'all, even my regulars, you should check out my playlist. I've been updating them, cleaning them up, and checked out also the description of the last couple of streams, or just this current stream, for links to amazing EU channels and plasma cosmology, proto-Saturnian stuff, like Greg J, Electric Universe Eyes, The Electric View, Chronos, See the Pattern, Thunderbolts Project, Sky Scholar, to name a few. All right, one more little jam, and then we'll get some zoomed in shots here because it looks like it's clearing. It certainly is. That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, first 75, and definitely don't think the moon is a hologram, but I definitely think that it's not a camera anomaly or artifact, and I don't think it's airplane trails, but it could be a plasma double sheath interaction between the moon and Earth. It could also be something that we don't know about that's happening, like testing. It also could be just some weather situation that happens during times of the year that we're also not aware of. But yeah, very interesting anomaly. I left home at 17. I couldn't tell you, I was living the dream. What could I do? For a while I played the field. How could I prove the hidden yield without the news to fear? My heart was cool and left no residue. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. The moon goes high enough, like friends you used to know. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. It's a simulation, wake up in solitary, wake up, it's imaginary, man, don't you know, your life is worth more than they, yeah, oh, what would you have me do, it's a simulation, wake up in solitary, wake up, it's imaginary, man, don't you know, your life is worth more than this. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. High enough, as fast as you can go. Oh, oh. Catch me if you fall. Catch me when you're alone. Whistling at 3 a.m. is pretty hardcore. Alright, let's do a little zoom shot before it gets too late. There's a bit of catch. How's everybody doing in the chat? What did I miss? Have I missed anything? Alright, guitar break. I swear I'm gonna get that fixed. Alright, let's do little jams. Alright, I'm gonna continue with the paper by Ralph Jurgens. But this time we're going to zoom in on Copernicus. Alright, here we go. Got some got rid of all the lenses. It's just camera to the 11. Let me know if the levels on the vocals and the audio are sounding pretty balanced. I don't want it to be too blown out. So, you got Copernicus in view. It's a little bit watery, that's for sure. Still a few clouds moving through. And of course, everybody's smoke. But I was looking at older shots I have of Copernicus. Copernicus is a good example of something that's almost a hexagon, and it looks different at different, obviously different phases. But this is a good shot from directly above, and I think we can recognize if we just look at it that it really does have those kind of almost hexagonal features. Certainly the right wall starts to appear straight, and then you kind of have an angle, and definitely like the left side looks a little bit more curved, but you have a collapsed wall there. So I'm going to let it settle here for a second. I'm sure it'll get a bit clearer as it rises more. Alright, so that's a bit of Copernicus, and if I'm going to talk about Aristarchus, let's just go right over there. So dendritic structures coming off. So we got Aristarchus in view, Herodotus, Schroeder's Valley, and Aristarchus Plateau. Tons of amazing filamentary dendritic structures, patterns coming off of Aristarchus, and glowing very brightly due to several different factors that are listed, or one that I read today, which was that it's still radioactive, essentially, from whatever caused it or created it. So I think I can actually get the view just a little bit better with the filters. Tiny bit of filtering. There we go. Alright, so back to this Ralph Jurgens thing. So he was talking about sinuous rill theories. I'm going to go ahead and jump a bit ahead to this Aristarchus section, and I'm going to post the link for y'all. This is what I'm reading from. So towards the bottom starts Aristarchus. It says Schubert, Lingenfelter, and Peale have prepared a map showing the distribution of lunar sinuous rills. They remark the non-random distribution of sinuous rills is immediately obvious. The rills are clearly associated with the mare material and are conspicuously absent from the highlands. The tendency of the rills to occur in groups is also evident. So when they talk about sinuous rills, right now because of the atmospherics, it's a bit hard to get all the details on other ones, but we're going to see right in the center of Aristarchus Plateau, you've got this feature which is really prominent. I think it's going to be one of the key kind of quote-unquote smoking gun features, which is Schroeder's Valley, or Valles Scrotarii, and it's a snaking kind of canyon or gully or trail, or whatever you want to call it, that kind of has a large mouth, almost like the head of the cobra, and then curves around, and then comes back, almost makes a U-turn. And this is about 300 kilometers long. And so that's what a sinuous rill is. And sometimes we can see Aristarchus at a different angle during a later phase, and you can see Schroeder's Valley a lot better and more relief. Hopefully the clouds will clear too and we can see it even more so, but it's right there. So this is still talking about Aristarchus. This tendency to occur in groups is something of an understatement. What strikes me about this map is the dense concentration of sinuous rills in the neighborhood of the crater Aristarchus. Dots marking rill locations in this region frequently overlap, making it difficult to count them. A quick count, nevertheless, indicates that more than 40 of these features are within 300 kilometers of Aristarchus, and upwards of 70 are within 500 kilometers. Actually, let me just... Better to just do it in the zoomed out view. You can see Kepler as well. So if you check out the link that I posted, you can kind of see the map distribution all the way down the page and kind of matched up to what we're looking at once these damn clouds clear. Alright, the crater Aristarchus has become well known as the center of a small area on the moon that occasionally emits visible light. In 1967, Barbara Middlehurst of the University of Arizona's Lunar and Planetary Laboratory published an analysis of lunar events, color changes, glows, and other signs of lunar activity reported over the last 4 centuries. Of some 400 such events, she noted that the most active region is certainly around the crater Aristarchus, the neighboring Schroeder's Valley and Cobra Head, or I guess that would be Herodotus, the pear-shaped crater at the upper end of Schroeder's Valley. So that's that kind of flat-floored, almost looks like Plato crater to the left of Aristarchus, kind of being cut right now by its white rays. How y'all doing in the chat room? Just checking in. Jen Perry says, I checked out Electric Terra. Super cool dude with some compelling lab results. Hell yeah, that's awesome. I really like, he goes into depth on it, and I was checking out a bunch of the videos today too. I really want to see like how I can put them side by side with these visuals, or vice versa, you know. Hope those guys kind of feel like they can use this footage. Come on, clouds, let's get through this. Okay, so talking about the Aristarchus region has also been identified by gamma-ray spectrometers flown in orbit during Apollo 15 and 16 missions as one of the 3 localities on the moon showing enhanced radioactivity. Even more compelling is the finding of Apollo 15's alpha particle spectrometer, designed to detect alpha particles from radon decay and to locate regions with unusual activity on the moon. The region containing the highest count rate is approximately centered on the crater Aristarchus, but also includes Schroeder's Valley and nearby regions. So this is really fascinating. It's obviously, like, I'm not the first person to notice that Aristarchus is really important and interesting, but just starting to get really much more knowledgeable about who has talked about it and who has written about it. And this paper by Ralph Jurgens is really awesome and compelling. Getting through this, let's see. The authors who reported the alpha particle results, Paul Gorenstein and Paul Bjorkholm, both of American Science and Engineering, point out that the excess 222 Rn at Aristarchus, blah, blah, blah. All right, I'm not going to go into details on the radiation, but I want to go into, let's see, also lowering this background. All right, presumably, yeah, they go into a bit more detail on the math and the chemistry a bit, but it's absolutely fascinating. The clustering of lunar sinuous rills on the map. So essentially what they're saying is that around the Aristarchus region, there are a ton of different sinuous little rills, and where that really falls in the plasma cosmology is that they're saying that, or the implication is that a massive thunderbolt essentially created Aristarchus crater, and also within that region was also creating all these different sputtering discharge and flutters of electric discharge around that region especially, and kind of tearing down from north to south with Aristarchus in the middle is sort of how I read it, but that's my first take on it. Still, it's like, actually I always question on the show like whether people really have looked into Aristarchus, and I guess they have. So let's go a bit deeper. I feel like it's also getting clear. Let me zoom back into Aristarchus. Okay, so how old is Aristarchus? To date, no mission to the moon, manned or unmanned, has returned lunar samples from the Aristarchus region. We may anticipate, however, that when and if such samples are secured, they will be pronounced to be 3 to 4 billion years old. Accepted dating techniques based on radioactive decay will be applied, and that will be that. It will be concluded, therefore, that the Aristarchus explosion took place not 3, but millions of millennia ago. This is really fascinating because this is over 50 years ago, and Ralph Jurgens is essentially lamenting the situation where he already knows how defenders of the pop science culture are gonna already beat him down for for even suggesting this, just as they did with Velikovsky. But he mentions here, Velikovsky had already offered a number of valid reasons why such dating methods should be suspect. Uncorrected potassium-argon ages of lunar materials make some of them older than the inferred age of the universe itself. 2. Lunar materials are strikingly deficient in certain volatile elements, a fact which casts strong doubt on the credibility of uranium-lead, thorium-lead, and rubidium-strontium age determinations. And 3. No account is taken of the possible effects of electrical discharges on lunar materials. And I feel like that's like the key point there, because it's not just that, it's that electric discharge is not taken into account on Earth geology as well. And so that's why we have these insane long-term epochs or change over a long period of time, because it's never even brought into question as to whether it might have taken place over much shorter periods with electric discharge. That is a key point when it comes to cosmology, but also Earth history and Earth geology. It's really fascinating how just regular people are just tied to the old mythos so emotionally that they can't even entertain these thoughts. But keep going through it. Yo, let me know what y'all think of what I'm reading. Is it totally boring, or should I keep going? I think I'm gonna keep going anyway, but just asking y'all. I'll finish it up here. So, as Velikovsky pointedly asks, when we measure the age of the universe, why do we assume that at creation the heavy elements like uranium predominated and not the simplest ones like hydrogen and helium? It is philosophically simpler to assume that all started, if there ever was a start, with the most elementary elements. A catastrophic event, or many such events, were necessary to build uranium from hydrogen. Although the radioactive clock cannot be disturbed by heating or hitting, it can be disturbed by discharges of interplanetary potentials. So this is amazing, because this is the type of stuff that really leads to discovery, kind of questioning current day astrophysics and pushing the paradigm forward is extremely necessary at whatever cost of being called insane or just mad or a crackpot. You just have to kind of push through and talk about new / super old ideas all over again. Cool. Yo, what's going on? Ilmancia Fabrian? Sorry if I didn't get that right. All right, right on. Let me just put on something behind it. Yeah, this is my drone track. Okay, So I, for one, would predict with some confidence that once the curtains of thermonuclear theory are drawn aside, electrical engineers will quickly discover that the controlled fusion reactions they have been seeking in vain for a quarter of a century have actually been within their grasp for at least twice that long. That a relatively small throughput of electrical energy will release the pent-up power of matter on a scale far beyond the most fanciful predictions of the late 1940s. In view of the credibility gulf surrounding the entire premise of radioactive dating and the attendant assumptions that deny the moon any kind of history for the last 3 billion years, it seems reasonable to look into other kinds of evidence that support that in an effort to determine the age of the crater Aristarchus. And of these other kinds of evidence, we have already noted the appearance, the stratigraphic relationships, the intense radioactivity, and the luminous emissions from this site. Everything that is known about the crater argues in favor of its youth. It would be an exercise in futility at this time to attempt to pin down the exact moment when Aristarchus first appeared as a scar on the face of the moon. Perhaps future generations will develop both the curiosity and the means to attack this problem, and will finally be able to assure us that this crater was and was not born in the 8th century. Was or was not. Let me repeat that. It would be an exercise in futility at this time to attempt to pin down the exact moment when Aristarchus first appeared as a scar on the face of the moon. Perhaps future generations will develop both the curiosity and the means to attack this problem, and will finally be able to assure us that this crater was or was not born in the 8th century. All right, I want to really let that sink in for a second. And then really this whole trail of inquiry just dies off after this. I was looking for further research from Ralph Jurgens. It really kind of jumps from here to Thunderbolt's project talking about him. But yeah, posted that link in the chat, and I'll probably add it to my description so people can pick it out at any time. But the fact that Aristarchus is a real major point of interest, that it's young, that it's radioactive, that it is very likely electrical in nature, that it possibly happened after Aristarchus Plateau, that Schroeder's Valley is a sinuous rill that is likely also an electrical arcing phenomenon, that you have dendritic pathways coming off of Aristarchus, plus you have radiation and that we can see visibly. Further than that, there was something else I read, but I guess I skipped over when I was talking, which was that perhaps Aristarchus is the touch point where Mars and the moon actually connected, which would be an unbelievable story. So essentially, our ancestors saw the moon and Mars interact and Aristarchus be created. That'd be an amazing, amazing tale. What up, chat room? Just jumping back in here. Sully's Girl says, maybe Grand Canyon electric scar washed more by young dryas melt about 12,000 years ago. I'm really like such a novice on Earth geology, but I feel like the more I listen to Andy Hall talking about it, and you see the moon stuff, and you feel like, man, it really could all be the same sort of thing, with all, different forms of tornadoes and hurricanes, ionic winds, vertical winds, and pressure zones, and these are all really different different forms of plasma, I guess, and or charge. Even the wind that we feel is really like plasma, essentially, and electrical in nature at its core, which are tiny little plasmoids, it would seem. It's real fuzzy tonight. I was hoping for a little more clarity, but at least we can see Aristarchus, Kepler, Copernicus. Actually, I made my filters way too harsh for the lighting. Ooh, it is. Damn, I was a little distracted. So the settings were way harsh. What up, Asas, right? What's up, Kayet? How you doing? Happy Honey Big Bear says, haven't we also noticed that Aristarchus has changed and morphed over time? It's hard to prove that like over long periods, just because like I've looked into old like other people's moonshots from historical record, and it's very hard to find anything before 1940. Really, you can find out. I've got 20 or 30 images before 1940, and a lot of them are really terrible details. So I don't know what 100 years really is in terms of lunar imaging, and if that's really enough to gauge that. The other thing that I was thinking is that Aristarchus and all these features do change per phase and different days, and across the night even, it looks different. So maybe that's kind of the reference that you might be talking about. All right, let's see if maybe I can adjust the scope a little bit. I can't tell. I feel like it's the... Yeah, let me play with it a bit. I'll be right back. Jeff Gibson, what's going on, says, did I ever check out The Physics of Plasma Universe by Dr. Anthony Peratt? I have, actually. I have that on my bookmarks. But I'm still like total newbie. Not total newbie, but 5 years in newbie on EU. So Peratt stuff is a little over my head still, just like Crothers and Sky Scholar. But now I'm trying to get into this whole, the depth of Ralph Jurgens. Like man, it's just crazy. And also like reading through Worlds in Collision, Earth in Upheaval, and listening to all of Halton Arp's talks, which are not very many, but you have to really listen to Halton Arp talk. That whole video of intrinsic redshift, seeing red, and history of cosmology, like takes many, many watches to really get it down to understand. 3:30 a.m. Feeling good, feeling great. Let's get some tunes in the background, maybe. All right, what's up, everybody in the chat? We got lots of people. It's cool. What's going on? Okay, so Dr. Peratt, nothing before 1940, pretty much. I mean, there are some shots, but really nothing where you can like point to saying like, hey, this is Aristarchus from 1920, or this is Aristarchus from like 1900. You know, nothing like that really. And honestly, even through 1960, 1970, I mean, you do have some of the orbiters, and you do have the Apollo shots, so you do have photos of Aristarchus from them, but it looks pretty much the same as it does right now. However, this in 2 nights will look incredibly different. It'll be at a whole other angle to us, and you'll see it really at a like 3/4 view. It'll look completely different than it does now. Fresh75 says, what's the next important moon event I'm looking forward to? What state? Florida, yep. I used to live in Arizona in the 90s before the chemtrails with amazing skies. I have to say, like, I know people think it's crazy, but I know there are chemtrails for sure. But like, it's been a little bit chiller lately, but I don't know. I mean, summertime is a super lightning and crazy storms, so when I first started scoping, the skies were a lot worse. So I guess chemtrailing has gotten a little more camouflage, but I don't doubt it. There's no reason it wouldn't be happening. Like if people think they can change weather patterns with airplane contrails, then they're going to try and do it. And who are we to stop them, except to point it out? So I don't know. It's the same thing with the whole satellite thing. People who are launching the satellites are the same people who complain about space debris. It just seems so hypocritical, and the irony is lost on them. All right, awesome. It feels like it cleared up for a second, so let's jump back into our Zoom mode. I don't know, it looks like some dark clouds are moving in, y'all. I don't know, it might be Q. Might be some Q. But anyway, another cool night of viewing. Sharing some good information, finally. Something that really seems logical. This whole idea of hexagonal craters and pentagonal craters not being remnants of impacts is so simple. It's almost just like ridiculous. I feel silly being like, oh, I've been on the fence about this, but it's so obvious. These are organic shapes that emanate out in a lattice structure. That's why you have bees that build their hives in honeycomb patterns, because it's efficient building. And so things like hexagonal craters will only come of an organic growth versus an impact. If it were clearer, I'd be zooming into Ptolemaeus right now and Copernicus, and we'd be looking at hexagons, and there's really no response for that or even any discussion about that in common cosmology, which is just insane. Let me know what y'all think about that. Maybe I'm just being silly, but it seems like very, very basic. And of course, I'm not trying to take credit for it, because Thunderbolt's project's done like, I don't know, 5 videos on electric scarring, and they really talk about it in detail. But I feel like showing it for real and talking about it is a whole other thing. I kind of feel like Thunderbolt's project and whoever's talking about plasma stuff should show real footage of planets and the moon when they talk about it, but that's just my thoughts. Let me see what else I was reading. So there's the Physics and Astronomy of the Moon book, which is something I want to look into. Interpretation of lunar craters. Oh, look at that. We got some moonage. It's real finicky tonight. Oh, so Brian J. Ford, Origin of the Lunar Craters. This is another one that I'm going to share with y'all. This one starts off, since the birth of telescopic astronomy in the 17th century, a very large number of theories have been advanced to account for the characteristics of lunar craters. They have all fallen into 2 main groups: volcanic theories, which postulate that the craters are the product of lunar volcanism, and meteoric theories, which hold them to be the products of meteoric bombardment of the moon's surface. These 2 schools of thought were both founded in the 17th century, and even in the light of modern space research, no hypothesis has produced any ideas not contained by variations on these original themes. The hypothesis that is outlined briefly in this paper is entirely new, in that it conforms to neither discipline, and as well as postulating a hitherto unsuspected mechanism of the origin. I need to actually magnify this. It's crazy small. Why can't I magnify you? Gotta save this. PDF. There we go. Much better. Damn, I was really straining to read that. Okay, earlier hypotheses. There are many objections to the earlier theories. The primitive concept that meteorites would produce craters by impact was invalidated by the observation that there were no oval craters, or at least very few, and that oblique trajectory of random meteorites would certainly produce many. Gilbert and Baldwin showed that the energy of impact might be sufficient to produce surface effects similar to those of a thermonuclear explosion, no matter what the angle of arrival. Invariably, a rounded crater would be produced. So they're suggesting that as certain types of meteors came in, they'd almost explode above the surface, therefore creating a round crater. However, as Professor Kopal has suggested, there would be far more signs of topographical damage from the immense upheaval that this process would cause than are actually observable. This is really, really important right here. This is what I've been looking for personally. There's a whole idea, the formation of the moon from a giant impact collision with an alternative planetary body, and then an accretion disk buildup to create the moon really doesn't actually work physically, if you really read up on it. So that's kind of still up for debate, I feel. But this is still talking just about impact, or just impact versus volcanic versus, I think possibly he is talking about electrical, but I haven't actually read this Brian J. Ford stuff till right now. Let's see. But yeah, this is the important sentence. It is, let's see. However, as Professor Kopal has suggested, there would be far more signs of topographical damage from the immense upheaval. So that's the really big issue right here with impact craters versus electrical scarring or other means, is that craters of that size, 80 kilometers or 80, of anything above 50 miles, it would create this massive randomized damage around its impact, no matter what angle or no matter where it exploded above the surface. But you see very organized, sharp, geometric shaped craters all over the moon, and other bodies, of course. But for me, I gotta really just focus on the moon because that's what I can get footage of. Not acquiescing tonight, the clouds, but I got patience. Anyway, so somebody made that note. It is also worthy of note that there are no examples of large craters overrunning one of smaller diameter, although smaller craters may often interfere structurally with those of larger diameter craters. So same thing, seen that a bunch of times on the stream, where you have the large craters and you have tiny craters on the rims of those larger craters, almost like a clock mechanism. And you don't have the inverse, or at least no one's seen it. It is impossible for any random bombardment to prove so selective, yet this theory still has many adherents, including Fred Hoyle and the team which analyzed the Ranger 7 photographs headed by Kuiper and Shoemaker. The volcanic theory has just as many objections, and perhaps even more fanciful variations on the theme. It was postulated that lava welled up through a central vent, ran out in a circular pool, and then disappeared, extending much of the way around the moon, and then disappeared back down its well. The rim of dried solidified lava piled up to produce the crater rim we see today. There's nothing in the topography and structural configuration of the craters of the moon to lend support to this inventive idea. An equally improbable variant suggested that a central volcano had projected a stream of lava and ash at a fixed distance from its apex, which landed in a circle some distance from the center, and so came to form the crater. Another fanciful idea postulated that the Earth, once similarly covered with craters, had worn them away by rotating beneath its atmosphere. Not all these hypotheses have been so quaintly improbable. A more rational idea expanded by the Fursoff and other states that the crater and others states, let me actually adjust this one second. I dark clouds are creeping hard. Oh, there we go, little moonage. Not all these hypotheses have been so quaintly improbable. A more rational idea expanded by Fursoff and others states that the craters represent collapsed calderas, large domes of lunar rock produced by volcanic pressure falling in and leaving circular projecting rim. There are analogous structures here on Earth. There's no trace of the invariable debris that one might assume must accompany such a change, and the vastness of the process seems highly improbable. In addition, this view cannot account for the anomalous features of the lunar craters outlined below. Jumping back to the chat right here. So, from the bottom, let's see, Jen Perry says, check out Spirit Science. Yeah, I checked that, that's Jordan, right? For a few years, like back in 2011, 2012, I watched all of those videos, and it was pretty amazing. But there's something weird that happened with his channel, right? Like, they went over to Gaia TV, and they kind of got, I feel that whole Gaia thing, like I was watching that all the time with David Wilcock and a bunch of those shows, and I feel like it's just a strange network. They really they don't ever really touch upon plasma physics, and for me it started to get really stagnant, especially on the David Wilcock ufology disclosure tip. So I feel like Spirit Science is still doing a few videos, but it's kind of gotten away from, I don't know, I feel like I'm way more into observational and physical science right now, so the metaphysical stuff has to kind of take a backseat, or just, I've integrated the metaphysics actually with this whole idea that we're interconnected with the moon, and we bring the entire universe to the point of our eyeball at any given moment. Think about that power. I don't know, Gaia got to, yeah, like, I wasn't really sure, I just felt like, it felt misleading at some point. It actually started to feel like network television. That's actually how to articulate it a bit better. But yeah, I dug that original series of videos that kind of gave me a good perspective. Lemuria and Atlantis, but I feel like now thinking about it within the context of Proto-Saturnian cosmology, you realize that things like Atlantis and Lemuria could have easily been cities within these catastrophic events. Like, I'm not really a huge fan to say, oh, I'm a catastrophist, or I believe, like, I want the Earth to end or to be damaged, but it feels like these were the events that were happening after researching it, and you see that, like, when you have metaphysical channels and astrology talking about the end of the world or these types of catastrophes, and they don't reference things like Velikovsky and David Talbot and these people who've actually spent time putting together the mythology and the symbols and the archetypes that actually do completely correlate with historical references, it's a huge difference. So I feel like Spirit Science, like, those guys would do really well if they actually embraced things like the electric universe and talked about Velikovsky. But they do lean towards, like, oh my god, the Tesla conspiracy. But we've already heard about the Tesla conspiracy. Oh, Thunderbolt's project is on Gaia now, is it? But you know, I've talked about Thunderbolt's project, I don't want to say negatively, but I've definitely been like, I've always said they're not the be-all, end-all. There's, you know, with all respect to them, because they have kind of led charge and have given people access to this information. So I can't be very critical of them. But generally speaking, it would be amazing to get live streams, more videos from different people, like if they spread into different channels, if they had actual footage of space, if they talked about implications of Halton Arp, implications of Ken Wheeler, right? Like, so Thunderbolt's project is not be-all, end-all EU for me. Same thing, like, a lot of the EU stuff is really about history when we really just have the moon in front of us right now. So there's a lot of now stuff for me where reference history, but look at the craters in front of us and see if we can get a sense if they're hexagonal or pentagonal, and if that like really is impact related, and that can be done in the lab or that can be done on Earth. That would be amazing. But if you can do electric discharge and create hexagonal craters, then maybe it's time to look into that. And if that's the case, then the moon was in some sort of massive planetary interaction that had electrical exchange, and that will change. That fact in and of itself changes all of lunar cosmology, the age of the moon, any number of things instantly. So closing in on 4 a.m. here, and that's what I had to say tonight, everybody. I think it's time for me to just give it a rest because I gotta sleep. But it's good having y'all here. I'm gonna try and do another stream tomorrow, but it might be a bit. The next night it's clear, I'm gonna definitely do some Jupiter. And I thank y'all very much. Have a great day tomorrow, or today. Tell your friends about hexagonal craters, and share the links in the description if you want to spread the word on EU. Gently nudge people towards a new type of physics and a new type of understanding of space, the empowering version, not the depressing, stagnant, boring, bullying version. Let's get over that. It's tiresome. Bring everybody together under one sky. Let me know if you have any shout outs or any thoughts to close this one out. I have my last smoke with y'all while this moon drifts away. I don't know about that memo from YouTube. I am a streamer and I didn't get a memo. I didn't get the memo, y'all. I don't think they do that. It's a massive source of income. Unless the whole world gets on shutdown, then we shall see. Yo, peace out, Fresh75, thanks for hanging out. And Sully's Girl, Happy Honey, Big Bear, Jen Perry. Who else we got? Let's go through the list. And more Jello, good to see ya. Thanks for the feedback. Ciclid Visuals. Ilmancia, Fabrienne, Jeff Gibson. Osasin Hikayat, and who else we got? I saw Z Proxy somewhere, Genghis Khan somewhere. I know Light Moon was there before. That's all I got. That's all she wrote. Yeah, maybe see y'all tomorrow, maybe not. I don't know. It's gonna be pretty late, but we'll see. I might have some energy. Today I was really pumped, but get the message out there, y'all. You know, It's space is in our hands. I feel really pumped today about it. Researched some of this stuff and like, I don't know, all positive thoughts. It's really tough to get through life, I know, but it's fun while we dance.